All right, after talking about what the protein's function is and what it does for your body, we also talked about how do we distinguish when we're either purchasing food specifically at the grocery store, or if it's you're out to eat in general, how to distinguish what's a lean or high quality protein option versus a low quality or high fat protein option. The other thing we're going to go over is, again, taking a deeper dive as we go into the grocery store, right? What foods have proteins, okay? And what is a plant-based protein versus an animal-based protein, okay? So to do this, again, I have a couple different examples represented on the board just to give you an idea, okay? So our animal-based proteins, okay? You can see we have chicken, we have beef, okay? Your dairy products, which could be things like cheeses, milks, cottage cheese, yogurt, okay? Thinking of other different types of meats, you got seafood, you have pork, you have turkey, you have things like game meat, which could be like a bison or deer, pheasant, right? There's a variety of different types of animal-based proteins that are out there, okay? Now, the big thing with animal-based proteins is they have all of your essential amino acids. So what does that word essential mean? So there is certain proteins or amino acids that we have to get specifically from food. So our bodies cannot make them. We have to get them from the food that we take in and that we ingest. When you eat animal-based proteins, these protein options have all those amino acids that you need, okay? Now, on the flip side of that, not just animal-based proteins, we have plant-based proteins. So this could come from things like whole grain rices, whole grain pastas, beans, lentils, okay, come from a plant rather than an animal. So with these plant-based sources, right, a lot of times they won't have all of the essential amino acids. So if you have an athlete, if there's just somebody in general that is following a vegetarian or a vegan-based diet, they're probably going to be going towards more of these types of plant-based protein options to get the protein that they need specifically in, so that it helps with the functions that we talked about in the other video. But in this case, right, like beans aren't going to have all the essential amino acids. So if someone that was vegetarian or vegan or followed one of those types of diets, they would need to then match that with another plant-based protein. So a quick and easy example could be black beans and rice, red beans and rice. If they ate those two plant options together, they would then get amino acids from one side, amino acids from the other food, and together would get all the essential amino acids they need. Now, for me, right, obviously you heard me say, oh, he said vegetarian, he said vegan. Like, is that a better option than some of the other recommendations and stuff that he's saying to follow? At the end of the day, no matter who it is, I'm here to serve and to help those individuals based off the type of diets they would like to follow. Okay. It is not for me to tell them to not do something. It's not good for you. Stay away from it, right? I'm here to essentially provide, here's what the research says. Here's what I recommend. At the end of the day, they're going to choose what they want to do. So regardless of the situation, right? You know, if they want to follow a lacto-ovo vegetarian diet, my job is to help support to make sure they're getting all the vitamins, minerals, and those big nutrients that we're talking about right now, right? The carbs, the proteins, the healthy fats. It's my job, regardless of the situation, to make sure they're getting those specific foods in. Now, where some challenges occur with that, right? If we take a chicken breast, or if we take, you know, this ground beef here, right? About 1 ounce of animal-based protein is anywhere between 6 to 7 grams of protein, okay? Most athletes need anywhere between 6 to 8 ounces of protein at a meal. Again, some may need even more than that, depending on the size, which is the height and the weight of the athlete, and just their overall caloric needs. There's going to be some factors that are going to affect that. But just to give you an example, right? So if I have one fist, now I know everybody's fist is going to be a little bit different in size, but again, this is just an example. If one fist equals 4 ounces, okay, if you do, let's say 6 times 4, that's roughly 24 grams of protein, right? I always typically recommend athletes at a meal, you should be getting bare minimum, at least probably 20 to 50 grams of protein. Again, that number may be much higher depending on the things that we just discussed. But if I have that 4 ounces of chicken breast or 4 ounces of ground beef, and that gives me at least 24 grams of protein, if we look at plant-based proteins, it can be very challenging, all right, to get the amount of protein that we need in, right? Because if I get 24 grams from this, I may have to eat 2 to 3 servings of beans, which in some of your cans, some of those servings may be 3 to 4 servings in a whole can. So I might have to eat a whole can of beans to get the same amount of protein that I would in 1/5 of animal-based protein. Now, a lot of your plant-based proteins also have a lot of fiber. Fiber breaks down slow. Fiber tends to get us fuller, faster. And a excess amount of fiber leading up to activity or training sessions may also negatively affect us because we may again feel sluggish, slow, heavy, nauseous. And in rare cases, right, if you're not used to taking in a lot of fiber, your gut is not used to taking in a lot of fiber, and all of a sudden you just hammer it with 10, 20 grams of fiber out of nowhere, right? And your gut isn't able to adapt to that quickly, you may have some concerns that may then negatively affect you, in your specific sport. So again, these are things where I'm not telling people they can't do it or not to do it. There's just a lot of factors and timing and things around your activity that you have to consider when you're making these specific choices. Now, other things to think about as well, right? We can have all of these different things at one time. Maybe I have red beans and rice, okay, with a Mexican burger, right? And then I have a glass of milk on the side. That's great, right? We're getting 3 different types of food groups, okay? We're getting a dairy, we're getting a protein option, we're getting beans, which have carbs, they have fiber, and they also have protein. And then all of them are going to offer different types of vitamins and minerals as well. Okay, so by having a mixed plate of these options is good as well. So again, ultimately it's going to be your choice, but these are just some kind of quick examples that you can think about, gives you an idea what a plant-based protein versus an animal-based protein is. Now, to give you a couple examples like I just did for meals, right? How do we utilize these to essentially make or develop a meal? What I always say is you really want to start with protein first. If you know how to cook protein, or you know how to make protein, that's kind of where the base of the plate is going to start. And then you could build the carbs and fruits and vegetables around it, right? Because there's a lot of really quick and easy options like we talked about in the carbohydrate videos that you can pick up from the store that take, like you saw, probably 60 minutes or 60 seconds, maybe even up to 5 to 10 minutes, really quick, easy options. So I could do a lot of things here, right? I could make meatballs out of this. I could make meatloaf. I could make hamburgers. I could do a hamburger helper, right? If I have the chicken, a lot of times with meats, I'll always marinate them, all right? To give it some different flavors, some different spices, marinades, sauces, citrus, right? And sometimes I'll buy a pack of chicken in bulk, split the pack in half, put half in 1 gallon size bag, put half in the other gallon size bag, and then I'll throw in different sauces or different mixes, let it marinate for a day or two, and then boom, if you want to grill it, if you want to bake it, if you want to cut it up into smaller pieces to saute it, if you want to stick it in pasta, you want to stick it and mix it into rice. I mean, you could make a rice bowl with ground beef, you can make a rice bowl with the chicken, you could add beans. Again, there is so many different ways and options you could essentially put together a quick and easy, 10 to 20 minute meal. It's just taking the time that we've talked about before to be organized, plan ahead, and making sure you know what you want to make during the week, which will allow you to make easier choices when you go to the store.